My name is and I'm mayor of Freetown. I've been in office for a year, and in that year, and indeed prior to the start of my term, I've engaged with SLURC, and in doing so, obviously engaged also with UCL. The SLURC and UCL products, the outputs from the work they've done, whether it's the community action plans or it's the risk arc, those products have been incredibly useful to what we're doing at Freetown City Council. A fundamental challenge that the city faces is unplanned urbanization. So there's been a direct alignment with the focus of this research work and our agenda. It's come into play in three ways. Firstly, the research itself fed into our thinking as we developed Transform Freetown. And as I say, as we developed Transform Freetown, that is as we looked at what are our specific challenges and what could be the concrete targets we could design to achieve those. The second area, which one might easily overlook, is the foundation that was laid in communities through the SLURC research and engagement, where in developing the community action plans, a mindset was being built on, being nurtured, of communities being involved in a participatory way in identifying and solving their risk-related challenges. So that foundation was really helpful because the Transform Freetown agenda is a participatory one. And the third is the fact that even now, as we're working on implementation of Transform Freetown, SLURC sat as a sector working group member for urban planning and housing, also for urban rental management, as did the Federation of Urban and Rural Poor, parties who are collaborators with SLURC and UCL. So on a practical level, from the perspective of the output of the research feeding into the thinking for Transform Freetown, the foundation being laid in terms of attitude and cooperation with community, and thirdly, the partners of UCL, SLURC, FIRDUP, being partners of Transform Freetown. The work that's being done by UCL has had a direct and very relevant input and impact on the Transform Freetown agenda.
Strategic plan, infant and maternal mortality is still high, though millions of dollars have been spent on the sector over the years. Deputy Minister of Technical and Higher Education, Dr. described research as the backbone to national policy and
SLURC's research work and partnership with the government of Sierra Leone through the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Environment has been very critical to policy formulation and in providing required data, that help in the development of the national frameworks like the National Development Plan. And we've been in partnership with SLURC for a couple of years now, and through its project like the Urban Act and the Community Area Action Plan, we've been able to provide relevant data and information that supports national policy framework in Sierra Leone.
My name is Oyanks Conte. I'm a member of the Glaza community. When we have the Urban Act projects within this community, we decide that Nigeria has suffered a lot and it is a disaster-prone community of flooding. where you can see this drainage now being filled with it. Before it was filled with a lot of rocks that allowed the water to flow over our houses. This house was almost at the same level of this one, as you can see the drainage in the sun. But because of the flooding we have, it was very, very serious, and everybody moved from this house and destroyed the whole house up to that particular end. What we did is to see how best we can come to a lot of members of the CDMC and the Federation members to remove all the stones that are inside this particular stream. As you can see now, we remove them to allow the free flow of water to go down. So the urban actors teach us that not only about the amount of money, it's about the amount of collaborations, the impact, the participations, how people are involved in solving problems within the community. So with that one, it has created a wide impact in the community now that a lot of people are buying the idea from what we've learned from the Urban Act project, and it's moving down.
Struggling in terms of how best they can be able to actually enforce, banking, embankment within the community. So at least since they have within the local structure, they have the community leadership, they actually struggle a bit. Even though they have some few reinforced, some few pillars that they had before, it was difficult for them to actually enforce that. And before, NPA had also gone there in terms of marking out structures by way of a threat of eviction within that area, because that area is an important, is highly globally significant in terms of Ramsar Convention. That's the Ramsar site. So in the midst of that, the community later look at that we cannot continue this way. For us to be able to actually effectively enforce our own law, our own local bylaws. So the discussion that they had about how possibly they can be able to do that, they end up actually developing a kind of a memorandum of understanding. That memorandum of understanding guides, actually guided them as to how best they can be able to stop embankment within that community. So, but since it was an initiative coming from Kokube, and that had definitely spilled to other different set of community, you look at the idea, of course, if we are going to stop this at this one end, then that cannot be a sustainable activity. So at least they had to involve all of the other coastal communities, about 39 of them, 32 or 39 of them, into one particular environment, and they all had to append their signature to that embargo. Of course, every one of these communities had their own committees have been set up, to which the Federation, the coordinator for the Federation of Urban and Rural Poor, acted as a guarantor. So he acted as a guarantor in terms of witness the signing ceremony by all of the different set of communities. So at least they have a position where the last house have been demarcated, and anybody that goes beyond that last house definitely has to pay a fine of 100,000 euros. And of course, they have really used the last house as a key benchmark.
This community was a big community, but not with so many houses, because, like, for example, the river was so big that it can go inside people's houses and destroy properties. So when slug came into our community, they took some people. I was one of them. They teach us based on mapping, how to map our community and show us some prone disaster areas, show us how our community was, how dangerous our community was, show us so many things in our community. So after that, we came again in our community and also sit down as community people, say something to the head of this community person, which is the chief. We explain what knowledge we gain from slug. And as the chief, he organized some people and tried to tell us that we should stop this banking because it's a very dangerous thing. If we don't stop the banking, there are some problems that will occur which we can't stop. So we decided to create pillars on this banking, which is this. But it was based on the mapping knowledge that we gained from slug. So we decided to lay these pillars and put a very strict law that no one should go beyond these pillars, because if you do, the law will bite you. So it started from here and it go near the bridge. Of course, yes, because this whole community is also situated near the bridge. So we just started, we tax ourselves. Yes, even the chief bring 2 bags of cement. Community people, what you have, you bring 1. Or even if you don't have cement, you bring some amount of cash. So the chief taxed everyone that is living in this community. So based on that, we bought the cement, and some of the men, because I was not there, some of the men work on it and decided to build these pillars. Anyone that go beyond this or anyone that's decided to break the law will face the police. Yeah, the police will intervene.
Oh, wow.
So they give us the map of our community. So decided to place the map at the barrier of the chief. So the chief brought that idea, and all of us, the community people, agree.
Everyday risk and small episodic risk, definitely had not been captured, rarely captured in statistical information, more generally. And in essence, it has received very limited, attention in terms of how best we can be able to actually prevent, mitigate, or even possibly reduce the kind of risk that may happen within the informal settlement. Everyday or episodic risk related to water-related diseases, and small-scale disaster like even localized floods and landslides. We had to use what's called a platform I would call remap risk. So it's more or less kind of referenced database that the data being collected from the field from those either mobile phone apps are being synchronized and placed onto the online platform, which possibly can be used in terms of interrogating that one and see how spatially they are being spread across the different set of settlements in which those data were being collected.
I think in the future, most of our surveys and mapping projects, we are going to use the Survey 123 and ArcGIS, which I think is a legacy that the remap risk has left with us at the Sierra Leone Urban Research Center. And we also aim to plan how to pass on the knowledge to other groups, other partners, community members. And in the future, we're also planning to teach them how to use these programs more into mapping and also try to learn community people. So in the future, maybe they'll be able to do their own mapping for themselves. Generally, I think the remap risk has given us an insight into the challenges, the risk and hazards in all of these communities. So we more or less have a fair understanding of where things are and what the issues are. So with that, it's easier for us to build on our work, and in the future, we'll be able to highlight most of the hazard issues, disaster issues to Freetown as a whole and to other players, so people are more aware of the issues in our communities.